Hi, this is John from Branson, Cerakote. Welcome to our YouTube channel. We've gotten a few questions lately about how our shop is set up and what equipment we have. So we're just going to do, ended up being about a 12 or 13 minute video by the time we finished with it. Sorry for the length, but we have a lot of stuff in there and I actually kind of expanded on a few things. But we hope it's a good video for you. I hope it explains a few things. And don't forget to like and subscribe. That really helps us a lot. And don't forget to visit our website for all your stencil needs, bransonscerakote.com. Thanks a lot. Our compressor is an 80-gallon, just off-the-shelf Cobalt compressor. It's worked fine for us up to this point, but we are going to end up probably by the end of the year replacing it with, just an upgraded industrial one. The problem with this one is, with it being piston-driven, is it builds up a lot of heat in the tank. Which obviously adds water to the airlines and things, which we have equipment to take care of that. But, if you can get rid of that altogether, then, why not? Next thing you want to have coming out of your compressor is a desiccant filter. And what that's going to do is remove that oil and water at the first stage of the air coming out of your compressor. The one we have is a Gardner Denver. It's an industrial for, professional shops and things like that. The thing we really like about this one is fairly expensive, but you can add multiple filters in a series if you end up needing that. It has a petcock on the bottom you can drain the water out of, and also about every 6 months or so you just replace the filter that's on there. So it's a really good system. The next thing you want to have with your system at the beginning of your air system is it'll run out of your desiccant filter into a refrigeration unit. Again, we have Gardner Denver, which is a pretty good company, and it just runs into the back of that, runs through the coils, the system inside the refrigerated unit, and the air comes out of that system into our piping at about 35 degrees. So it takes all of that moisture out of the air before it hits your piping, so you don't get the rust particles and things like that. We have other filters in our system that traps anything that would get through all of this. So we've really made a redundant air system, and exactly like what they recommend online. You zigzag your piping up and down the wall. We won't really get into piping. It really just depends on personal preference and what you read. I don't think there's really any right or wrong way to do all that. The next thing that we'll talk about is our sandblast cabinet. We have a 4-foot sandblast cabinet. This is probably about the only piece of equipment we have from the beginning of when we first opened our shop. Our particular cabinet is made by a company called TP Tools, and this is their Scat Blasts line. Been a great cabinet. We've had 0 issues with it. You replace the film on the inside and outside of the viewing window. Real easy to do. You remove a few screws. They just peel off and you put the new ones on. Replace the gloves, same thing. Screw a few screws out, take the little gasket out of there, put the new gloves in. Had 0 issues out of this. It's been a great cabinet. The other nice thing about this cabinet is that it's got a really big interior. It's pretty deep, so we've just been able to do a lot of really good things. We did have a 50 cal in the shop not too long ago, and was able to do the entire barrel and receiver group without having to do part of it, take it out of the cabinet, spin it around, and put it back in there. You can get away with a smaller sandblast cabinet, but that would be the one area where I would recommend, one of the areas where I would recommend go as big as you can afford. Have a pressure regulator where you can control the air going in. You're going to sand some things at 20 to 45 psi and some things at 90 psi. Cerakote recommends that you run 100 grit red garnet or 120 AO. We run the red garnet in our cabinet, and the reason why is it just creates less dust and it seems to last a lot longer than the AO. We ran the AO for about the first year, and it was just honestly more trouble than it was worth. So we switched over to the red garnet, and I've had 0 issues with it since then. Next piece of equipment that we use, and we're just kind of jumping around the shop here, this is not in any particular order, is the degreasing tank. We got this directly from Cerakote off their website. It's a really good tank. It's about 43 inches long, I believe, on the inside, so you can do all of your larger gun actions and barrels. and it's just filled with acetone. It's got a lid that comes off, and just lifts off, and then it's got a nice rack on the inside that actually has two handles at the end. You lift up on the handles and legs fold underneath, so you can allow stuff to just kind of drip dry. Really good soak tank. So would highly recommend buying this, and we just built the frame out of just angle iron that you can buy at Home Depot or Menards, I think is where we got that. Next item that we've got is our spray booth, and this is probably the one piece of equipment that we bought when we built the new shop that I was the most excited about. We had just kind of a small room in the old shop, and it would get cloudy in there even with the fans running and everything else. This booth is awesome. I would recommend, again, anything that, if you can afford a booth like this when you start a shop, by all means, this is going to make your life really easy. It's got 12 filters on the back wall, a huge fan behind that just basically ducts straight out of the shop wall. It sucks everything into that bank of filters, and then clean air goes out of the shop. When the filters get gummed up, you just basically pop them out of their holders, dispose of them through your local hazmat disposal facility, whatever your local regulations say, and then pop new filters in. You can get them off of eBay. They're really not that expensive for as long as they last. Just a really good investment. The white coating on the walls, I can't remember right off the top of my head what that coating is called, but it's basically like almost like an epoxy. You brush it on with a paint roller. When it starts to get dull and kind of cuts down the amount of reflected light, it just basically peels right off the walls, and you just roll new stuff on. Takes about 12 hours to dry, and you're good to go again. Really good, thing to have in there. The paper towel roller on the wall, we actually got that for $1 at a yard sale. So you can find cool stuff like that, pretty cheap if you look around. The spray guns we use, I get questions about that. Iwata LPH 80s are our main guns. I do have two that I use every once in a while that are just your standard Harbor Freight, $40 guns. I use one for clear coat just because the clear coat is pretty harsh on your spray guns. So when it gets to the point after 6 or 8 months where it's no longer working right, I just pitch it in the trash and get a new one. The other one is just seems to have, it's lasted a long time, and it just seems to be a really good gun for doing like splatter effects and some of the battle-worn stuff. So I've really just kind of hung on to that one, for as long as we've had it. Our next item in the shop is some really good hanging racks. What we've used, we've gone through a few things over the years, but what we've kind of settled on are these really heavy-duty shelving units from Home Depot. I think we've got two of them. I think they were about $75 a piece. And the things I really like about these is that they've got a mesh shelving area on them that is really good for hanging hooks on. It's really super strong, holds a lot of weight, and you can just, when you're spraying things and you're trying not to let things touch, and you've got a respirator on and gloves, and you don't really want to have to worry about being super precise. You've got a lot of hook area in there that you can just kind of reach up and hang things on. The other thing you can see in this picture, and I'll touch on it real quick, are the hooks I've actually got hanging there. Cerakote has a hook set that you can buy, and I think it's like $65, $70. It's been forever since I ordered one. Super awesome set. It's really high quality metal. They don't wear out. They're just really good hooks, and they come in about 4 or 5 different sizes and shapes and things like that. So again, really good idea to buy that set. Well worth your money. This is the outside of our oven, RIP Glenn. I would not recommend the company that we went through to buy our oven. I'm not going to say the name of the company, but it was a company out of Iowa. The oven itself, we've only had one real kind of small problem with it that we had fixed back around Christmas. Other than that, the ovens worked awesome. However, the customer service from the company that we had, it was less than great. From what I understand, there's a guy in Pennsylvania that makes these same ovens, builds them to, special order, builds them. And I've heard great things about him. We're thinking about putting a second oven in so we can run 2 temps at the same time. And we will probably go through him for our next oven. The next picture, I think, shows the inside of the oven. And just wanted to kind of show that, there's a ton of hanging space in here. There's 2 regular kitchen oven elements in the bottom. And the one thing I wanted to show on that is that you want to put some kind of diffuser plate at the bottom, and that's going to diffuse your heat coming up so that you don't scorch the bottom of whatever you're baking. You can't quite see it, but over off to the right, there's also a circulating fan, and you've got to have convection in your oven. If you don't, again, you're going to get scorching or discoloration sometimes with the lighter colors at the top and bottom of your item. So if you've got that convection going on, you really won't have to worry about that. Our oven is 6 feet tall, 4 feet wide, and 3 feet deep. So we've got a pretty decent size oven, and it's really nice to be able to put several projects in it. The last thing we'll talk about, and it's something that Cerakote really doesn't, really cover or you don't really find a lot about information about online. We tend to refrigerate our coating. You know, you can see like on the robin's egg bottle down at the bottom, that darker color at the top of the coating is the solvent that allows you to spray the coating. And that stuff, as it sits, it settles out. And the warmer during the summer and things like that, that solvent will actually evaporate out even if it's shut all the way, or you know, when you've got the lid off and you're actually working with it. If you keep this stuff at kind of a constant temperature, and we set our fridge at, I think, 50 degrees. It's not super cold or anything like that. It just keeps that stuff good longer. We generally don't keep stuff in the shop long enough for it to be a huge issue, but we do refrigerate it just to, you know, as an extra precaution. Some bottles in here that are specific customers' coatings, so, you know, we only use them on their projects for, you know, larger projects and things like that. And then you can also see our 2 acetone squeeze bottles, since acetone evaporates out so quickly. We keep those in the fridge over the weekend. So that's it for the shop.